Welcome back to episode 2 of the Being Human podcast, which we recently relaunched last week, in fact. And this week we are focusing on International Women's Day, so it falls on the 8th of March. And International Women's Day is a day that I am always keen to acknowledge, to recognise, and to have a discussion about. I think it's so important. There are many of these international days in the calendar, all of them important, but I think to me, International Women's Day is one that really resonates and feels really important, in line with some of the work that I do as a people operations lead, but also as a woman and someone who has felt the challenges of being a woman, felt the need for more progression in all aspects of life. So I thought no better than to hear from a variety of voices around Human Made about what International Women's Day means to them, what we do well within the business, and to celebrate the women who work so hard within Human Made, but the women that have also inspired and mentored or influenced. It felt important to bring together a variety of voices from Human Made, not just women, men as well, to really find out the impact that women have had and what we can do better in the future. So I'm going to hand over to Zoe and some of my lovely colleagues to share what International Women's Day means to them.
I am Zoe and I am VP of Finance at Human Made.
Have you faced any unique challenges as a woman in your industry, and how did you overcome them?
I have faced many challenges. I think as a woman, I face challenges every day. I think, we do a great job at Human Made and in the wider community of pushing and striving for inclusivity and equality and moving that conversation forward. But we live in a world where it is very hard to be a woman. I love being a woman and I love women, but it's hard. I think we're used to these challenges as well. So we each have our own tolerances or our methods by which we get through them. So I think my advice here is just to talk about them. I think, just because we make things work doesn't mean that it should be that way. And the only way that we really change the conversation is about, speaking about these things, about being brave and pushing conversations around the challenges that we face, gender bias and stereotypes and unfair distribution of workload in the workplace. If I think back to difficult conversations I've had around this on my own or alongside other women, it's emotional and it can be really scary and difficult. But it's also amazing. And I think small steps is how we change it and we can influence the bias. And the thing that I feel really strongly about is that just to remove a little bit of the onus as a woman for having to overcome these challenges, to change that. How can we better talk to others about what they can do to help us overcome the challenges that we face in the workplace as women?
Have you had any role models or mentors who have influenced your journey?
Yes. I cannot let International Women's Day go by without mentioning my best woman, Siobhan McEwen. She is off doing amazing other things outside of Human Made now. If I think of anyone or speak of anyone who has had such a significant impact and influence on me in my career, it's Siobhan. We built each other up. We gave each other space and love and respect. Actually, at its most basic, I think being a woman is easier with other women by your side. And that couldn't be more true in the workplace.
So, Tom, what would you say is the impact that women have had at Human Made?
Gosh, well, probably hard to sum up in just a minute. I think, right from the beginning of Human Made, women have had a huge impact on the company and on me as a leader. I mean, we started the company right away with my sister Poppy involved, and then that over time that changed to my sister Zoe. They kind of switched out, and I mean, right from the beginning, both Poppy and Zoe were totally integral to Human Made, forming as a real company. And I think actually, it's a great time to reflect on the impact women have had. But I think also we still see even in some of the expectations that that the company and people in the company can have on women today, like, can often be in like unsung roles. And I think that was actually true even in the early days of Human Made, something I reflected on as Human Made grew. We've been really lucky though to have like some really amazing women who've worked at Human Made over the years. I think of Siobhan and the impact that she had on our culture and her leadership. I think of Jenny Beaumont and Petya and Dee and Zoe and you now, Hannah, joining and bringing a whole fresh perspective. Like, I think particularly the culture of Human Made has been really heavily influenced by the amazing women that have worked here and continue to work here. And something that I think is, really important and like that I'm really, really grateful for. I think also actually something else I reflect on as a leader, particularly at times when Human Made has needed to change. It's often been women actually that have challenged me or raised up those challenges. Again, kind of speaks a little bit to that unsung work. And so, I want to like acknowledge that and also say how grateful I've been for that. And Human Made is undoubtedly a better company for it. So a great day to celebrate that and recognise the impact women have had on making Human Made what it is today.
I'm Sarah Jones. I'm one of Human Made's account strategists.
What's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Well, I think when I reflect on my career, I think there's two things that stand out. One is around like your communication style. Adapt your communication style to who you're working with or your clients. And the second one is look for an organisation that really aligns with your values. I think if you find an organisation that aligns with your values, they're the organisation that's going to get the best out of you, and you're going to want to do really well for them.
Have you had any role models or mentors who have influenced you in your journey?
Yes. So my first manager and my first role out of university was Sarah Hogg, now Redman. And as a leader, she just was everything that I would look for, like in a leader or aspire to be. She set out a vision that everybody like wanted to get behind. She was ambitious, she was passionate, and she challenged both the organisation that we work with and our clients, like in a really like constructive way. She also went about everything in just a really nice way, and it said that you could have that balance of being ambitious but being really nice about it. And I think for me in my first role, she instilled a lot of values and behaviours that I try and adhere to today. When you're striving to be the best, it's still okay to put your hand up when you don't understand something. Be accountable for what you're doing and be proactive. So I think about her a lot. She was in leader back then and she continues to be today. So yeah, big thanks to Sarah.
Hi, I'm Mike Little. I'm the developer advocate for the Altis product at Human Made. I'm also the co-founder of WordPress. So yeah, I've been in the WordPress community for a very long time.
Can you talk a little bit about the impact that women have had at Human Made, please?
Sure, yeah. I think, the women at Human Made have had a real impact, both in terms of the company. I think we have a very well balanced company at Human Made, and I think that is in no small part to some of the women who've been involved at kind of leadership levels and managerial levels. Personally, I've definitely had a huge amount of support from some of the women at Human Made, both from when I was first joining and the type of things that I was doing then, and then just as things have gone on, as my role has changed and so on. Yeah, just had a very, very positive impact for sure.
How can we continue to support and celebrate women within Human Made, but also the wider WordPress community?
Sure. I think one of the important things, and certainly my experience from in the past running WordCamps and also running a WordPress meetup group for many years, is the visibility of women really has an effect. I think particularly running the WordCamps and running the meetup group, having women not just participate but speak at and help organise and be in leadership roles has really helped both bringing women into the community, making them feel welcome. Particularly, I've been involved in a lot of tech groups over the many decades that I've been working in the tech world, And I think that representation is key. So I think anything we can do to continue that, to highlight the stories that are, perhaps driven by women in leadership positions or women at the head of companies and so on, anything like that really does help because, visibility is definitely key.
I can think of so many instances when I've seen women positively impact Human Made, of course. From demonstrating their technical expertise in areas like engineering, business planning, content creation, digital marketing, through to loads of examples of women leading with integrity, kindness, and vulnerability. If I was to try and sum it up in one word, it would probably be role modelling. I've seen many examples of women role modelling the behaviours and values that we want to see more of at Human Made. Perhaps the most memorable are when I've seen women stand up, push through vulnerability and have really difficult conversations, all in the name of making the company a better place for all of us to be. I'm thankful for each time I've seen that happen, and also for all the times when I know it must have happened and I knew nothing about it.
I'm Jana. I am Head of Content here at Human Made.
What's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
For me, I would have loved it if someone told me that people are going to underestimate you continually and you should just do it anyway. They're wrong, not you, and it's not your job to convince anyone otherwise.
What does International Women's Day mean to you personally?
For me, International Women's Day should serve as a reminder of how far we've come since our Grandmother's Day. I'm sure my grandmother and my great-grandmother would be thrilled with all the progress that we've seen, but I think it should also serve as a reminder of how far we still have to.
Hi, I'm Rob O'Rourke. I'm one of the principal engineers at Human Made.
Can you just talk a little bit about the impact that women have had at Human Made?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen some of the hardest working colleagues I've ever had have been the women on the teams. It's a common issue, really. Women have to work a lot harder sometimes to get noticed, I think. But yeah, Petya, for example, works incredibly hard, like make sure we're delivering as well as we can, is always looking for new opportunities, really pushing the company forward and its vision and strategy. And Siobhan, who recently left, set up a very, very solid set of policies, including things that commonly are like overlooked in a lot of workplaces, things like menopause cover, which is like really important. Yeah.
And what do you think we can continue to do to support and celebrate women in the workplace?
Yeah, I think on the ground, it's kind of keeping an eye on each other when we slip up in terms of, everybody has those ingrained unconscious biases, calling those out, but not being mean or harsh about it. We all make mistakes, but definitely you see it in meetings sometimes or with clients as well. A common one is like people interrupting or talking over when someone else is talking. So I think as a man in that situation, like it's kind of important just to call it out. Make sure to kind of double back if somebody was cut off or interrupted. Calling back, making sure people's voices are heard. That's kind of, I guess, a simple one that anyone can do.
Yeah. Perfect.
Hi, I'm Kirsty. I'm an engineering manager.
Have you faced any unique challenges as a woman in your industry, and how did you overcome them?
I think, for the longest time, there's always been this extra pressure to prove yourself within the tech industry if you're female. There's always kind of it's very male orientated industry, so there was a lot of assumptions that whenever I was in a room, I'd be the designer or I'd be the social media marketer. I wouldn't be an engineer. I wouldn't be a developer. So there was always that kind of extra level of having to prove myself and explain that I knew what I was talking about and that I was on an equal level and equal playing field with everybody else. So I think that's always been a thing. And there's also by being such a minority for so long, there's also like this added pressure, like suddenly you're representing the whole of womanhood because you were in this room, which can put a lot of pressure on you as well.
Yeah. And how would you say you overcame those?
I mean, don't know that I ever truly have. I think imposter syndrome is still very much a real thing.
Yeah.
But I've taken a lot of time to try and doubt myself a lot less, and not to feel the need to constantly explain my thought process for things, and just like say things in a way that just accepts that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and really I think it's about self-confidence and how you project yourself as well, and just try not to worry about all the things you don't actually know, because it's the same for everybody. Your gender has no impact on that.
What's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
It's related to that, which is your voice is just as valuable, so use it with confidence. It is really easy to second guess yourself and feel like you really do have to prove your worth and prove yourself to everyone else. Like I know now that my ideas and insights and expertise do matter. So I'd say to speak up, take up the space, and don't let self-doubt hold you back, because the industry needs diverse perspectives, and I belong here as much as anybody else.
I'm sure. I'm Joe. I'm an engineer at Human Made.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about the impact that women have had at Human Made?
I think a pretty massive impact. I've worked at places that have been very sort of blokey, very men only in management, way fewer women, and I think it really suffers for that in general when you get that, particularly in tech, which kind of rightly gets this reputation of being a bit sort of sexist, misogynistic of things. With the Human Made having women kind of at all levels in the company, within like that executive team, kind of individual women have had massive impact. Did a huge amount of work changing things across the company, like processes, the way we look at things. Speaking personally, my manager is a woman, one of the people who has pushed me the hardest and also been the most supportive. It's not a blokes club. It's not limited there, and I just feel much more at ease and like willing to trust the people in the company when there are people here from a variety of backgrounds.
What can we continue to do to support and celebrate women at Human Made, but maybe also in the wider community as well?
I think, I mean, like you can't. We can't just be like, oh, things are great now. We don't need to bother. We don't need to do anything. Trying to make sure we're doing everything we can when hiring, when doing anything there to make sure that anyone from potentially underrepresented groups is not shut out. Like, because we could control things within Human Made, we can't control the world. When you have people working with people, when you have a more equitable workplace, when you have a strong representation of women in the workplace, then it challenges people's biases and perceptions and all of it. And then eventually, if they go off and work somewhere else, they can maybe be that change somewhere else.
Hi, I'm Leila. I'm a people operations manager. Well, when I was younger, I wish I knew not to compare myself with anyone else in their journey and their professional success. It took me a long time to understand that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in life. For me personally, it's about celebrating how far we have come towards gender equality and remembering those before us that fought for the things that now we take for granted today. Also, just as importantly, it's a chance to talk about how far we still have to go.
Thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts on International Women's Day. It's so important that we continue to have these conversations, discuss what we're doing, celebrate the women within our business and the work they do, but also challenge those unconscious bias and challenge behaviour that doesn't support the progression of women within the workplace, but within all aspects of life. So I just want to wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, not just to the amazing women at Human Made, but to all women.